Jonathan Johnson is the president of Medici, the overstock subsidiary that oversees a portfolio of great blockchain companies such as Bitsy, Factom, IdentityMind, PairNova, Ripio, Settlement, Symbiont, T0, and of course, it's gone, but Bit. Medici, led by, as he's affectionately known to us as JJ, is on the forefront of this industry, not just in investing capital, in advising, creating, assisting, guiding, and building. They seek out businesses that can really improve people's lives, and they give people the opportunities and the support to make those things really happen. They don't just seek out value, but they seek out opportunities. So JJ is not just a believer, but he's also a mover. And it's been a real privilege of everyone in BIT, and by extension the people of Barbados, to have Medici and Overstock as our partners in the last 2 years. So I'm not going to go on anymore because I may actually start to cry. So we don't want that to happen. So it's my distinct pleasure to bring up Jonathan Johnson, the chairman of Medici.
Start by saying two things. Peter, if I get to the other side and the Peter that meets me at the pearly gates greets me with such a generous and gracious introduction, I will be pleased. And if I am lucky enough through the grace of God to get through those pearly gates, I hope that paradise and its people are as beautiful and as welcoming as Barbados and her people. Second, before lunch, when Jack spoke, there was a comment that he should not be quoted or we should not take pictures of him. For those of you that have endured to the end to hear my speech, feel free to take pictures. And feel free to quote or misquote me as you like. 2.5 years ago, Medici became the largest outside shareholder in BIT. We did that because we believed in the vision that Gabriel and Oliver and those folks that Peter said started in a beach house, what they would bring to improve the lives of the unbanked. And earlier this year, we increased our investment in BIT because of what Rodden and his team have done to advance that in the intervening times. Sitting here today as an owner and investor, I couldn't be more pleased with the reception that we've had from all of the speakers. Today, I want to talk a little bit about how we came to be believers in blockchain, what we are investing in, and how we think BIT fits into that, and how BIT will change the world. Our parent company, Overstock.com, is a $2 billion online retailer in the United States. Now, 5 years ago, when I was the president of Overstock, my then senior in high school son, Porter, was lounging on the couch like only teenage boys know how to do. And he said to me, "Dad, when will Overstock accept Bitcoin?" And I must admit, I had no idea what he was talking about. So I had him tell me, and I began to study, and later toward the end of the fall, came up in an executive meeting. One of our executives said, "When should we accept Bitcoin?" We talked about it. Thankfully, I did not have to admit I didn't know anything about it then. And we decided that we would accept Bitcoin. And we announced that sometime in the second half of 2014, we would accept Bitcoin as a form of payment on our website. Well, our developers, our techies, our geeks were so excited. They said, "Why are we going to wait 6 months for that?" And they, in that week between Christmas and New Year's locked themselves in a conference room. We slid pizzas under the door. And on January 9th, 2014, we became the first major retailer to accept Bitcoin as a form of payment. Today, we accept over 50 different cryptocurrencies as a form of payment. And just to give you a sense, every week we have somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 of cryptocurrency revenue from people buying sheets and toasters and sofas on our site. It is a small percentage of our income, but it is a growing percentage of our income. So with that as the backdrop, we began looking at the technology which underlies cryptocurrency, blockchain technology. And we quickly learned that blockchain is more than Bitcoin. Now you'll notice I've got a computer screen up here that's a green screen. It's about circa 1984 when I was a freshman in college and received my first email ever from my mother, who was worried about her first son that had gone away. That's what the computer looked like. And I thought when I received that email that that was the internet. But the language we would use today, email was the first killer app on internet technology. And just like that, cryptocurrencies are the first killer app on blockchain technology. Now, about a year and a half ago, I was in Washington, D.C., and I had the privilege of sitting next to a gentleman named Robert Kaufman at dinner. Bob Kaufman, along with his colleague Vince Cerf, are widely acknowledged to be the fathers of the internet. They created the information superhighway, what we used to call. And Bob said to me, he said, you know, I think blockchain is going to be bigger and more important than the internet. Made me happy since we were investing in blockchain companies, but I said, Bob, why? He said, well, what the internet did is it created the free and frictionless flow of information. So when I send Peter a PDF of my marriage license, for whatever reason I would be doing that, I'm sending him a copy. When we shoot you a website or an email, you're getting a copy. What blockchain does is it lets us digitally transfer assets, not by sending a copy, but by sending the real thing. So that when I send M money, you're not getting a copy of my M money that I can spend multiple times, but you're getting the real thing. The digital transfer of assets is transformative. Here's the historical process that we use to transfer assets. If I am sending to another person an asset, whether that is money, a stock certificate, land title, my vote, anything that when I transfer you don't want a copy but you want the real thing, we go through a series of trust brokers. They may be agents or broker-dealers or banks or governments, and each one of those adds time, cost, risk of mistake, risk of fraud as form of friction. Blockchain does all of that through technology. Many people like to call blockchain technology trustless technology. I don't like that term. I like to call it trust through technology because it means that when an asset is transferred to me, even if I don't know you, the technology has said you have the asset, you can transfer it to me, and you have transferred it to me. We had the information superhighway, now we will have the digital asset superhighway. So we Overstock formed a subsidiary, an investment company called Medici Ventures. Our goal, and it is audacious, but it is doable, is to change the world by advancing blockchain technology that democratizes capital, that allows everyone in the system access to capital, access to banking in a way that we can't in the trust-brokered society, that eliminates middlemen, friction, fraud, cost, and at the end of the day, rehumanizes commerce. The techies in the room refer to blockchain technology often as peer-to-peer technology. I like the term person-to-person technology. Let's have technology make it so you and I can have a digital handshake that is just as good as the physical handshake that marked a deal in days of yore. So with that, we are focusing on 6 areas, 6 industries where we think blockchain technology will be particularly revolutionary. I don't say disruptive because I think that's offensive to those that will be disrupted. Revolutionary. If you're afraid of being disruptive, come with us. I think that's the message. Come with us. Capital markets. We think the stock settlement system, the stock loan system, all of the transfer of those assets should be run on blockchain technology. Money and banking. Identity. We've talked about identity. Nigel talked about wanting to be able to go to a company that could confirm the know your customer and anti-money laundering laws had been done, and he could believe what they said, and it would reduce the costs in his bank. We've invested in such a company so that people will have self-sovereign identity that they can prove. Property and land. The Prime Minister talked about digitizing property records. We have such a company that's entered into memoranda of understanding with many African countries that's doing just that. Voting. In West Virginia, a place that most Americans would not think is the bleeding edge of technology, they are doing remote digital voting for overseas voters via blockchain technology in this November's election. Those voters will be able to download an app, vote remotely in a secure, secret ballot, and best of all, they will be able to know that their vote was counted as cast. And of course, supply chain. Today, let me talk about money and banking, because that's what we're here for, BIT. The American novelist, deep thinker, James Baldwin, basically said, it's expensive to be poor. And indeed it is. We've heard stories today, we've seen videos today of people that are unbanked and poor, that their lives are more difficult. They don't operate in the 21st century the way we do. It is expensive to be poor. Since 2009, 25% of global correspondent banks have been severed. That number's probably bigger. It's about a year ago that I put this slide together. You feel that in this region of the world particularly hard. It's expensive to be poor when you can't have a bank. The human cost of being unbanked is enormous. So, here's kind of a level of unbankedness around the world. It is not just a Caribbean problem. It exists everywhere. What BIT is doing will solve a problem here and beyond. We're really, really excited about it. So blockchain banks the unbanked. Digital wallets. When I think, and I was talking to some new friends at lunch today about what I use a bank for, I primarily use it for 2 purposes. One, to store my money so that I don't have to roll it up in a wad in my sock drawer and make sure no one finds it. And 2, to have access to digital money, which for the bank is a credit card or a debit card. The M-Money wallet does both of those things. It allows people to store money and use it digitally. I love the idea that BIT is pursuing of digital fiat currency for central banks. And this is what Jack talked about. The printing costs will be less. The ability to transfer it will be less. The friction in transferring it will be less. Or the ability to transfer will be more. The friction to transfer will be less. It is, I think it will change the lives of many. Frictional payments, including remittances. The last video we saw of the woman in Guyana, when she can send it via an M-Money wallet, her life has changed, her family's life has changed. She now lives in the 21st century. And we have financial inclusion. I am so frustrated that in particular US banking laws have gone so far to security that they're excluding people. And I think that when we exclude people from the banking economy, from the 21st century economy, what we are doing is creating a more unsecure world. People move out of the normal market to the gray market and to the black market. They don't participate. They become frustrated and disenfranchised. When we bank the unbanked, I think we have a much safer society. The same James Baldwin said, "Those who say it can't be done are usually interrupted by others that are doing it." Hugh, you said there are two kinds of people in this world. After hearing your prime minister, I'm in the second camp. She is doing it. And so is BIT. Who is doing it? BIT. Where does BIT fit into Medici Ventures portfolio companies? I will tell you where. Right at the top. If I can't be Bayesian, we're going to be a big investor in a company that is going to make Barbados better. Now let me finish with a couple slides. S-curves. Adoption of new technology usually starts slow. There are some very early adopters, then it gets steeper, and then there are the late adopters. And performance of technology usually is the same. It takes time, but those that adopt early are the beneficiaries for the longest period of time. You talked about the light bulb. Wonder what the S-curve on the adoption for a light bulb was. Well, I don't wonder very much. It's right here. You can see early in the 20th century, new technologies like electricity and radio and refrigerators and telephones had slow sloping S-curves. And later technologies like smartphones, social media, tablets had steep sloping S-curves. Blockchain will have a steep sloping S-curve. And money, digital fiat currency, I believe, will have a steep sloping S-curve. For those of you that have been watching the screen during the breaks, there's been a series of questions that were asked of the public and that were asked of people in this room. Envelope, please. I've been given the responses to those questions, not just by the public, which you could see, but by how people in this room answered them. The first was, do you think digital currencies should be regulated to provide all Barbadians access to a more transparent and accessible financial system? The general public, 80% said yes. This group, think of where you are on the S-curve, 90% of conference attendees said yes. Let's climb that curve together. What is most attractive about digital currencies and mobile wallet services like M-Money? The top answer from the public at 33%, I can pay anyone anywhere. The top answer from this group at 50%, I can pay anyone, anywhere. Way to be climbing that curve with us. Number 3, what do you wish traditional financial service providers like banks, credit unions did better in Barbados? The general public, top answer at 64%, lower cost for banking services, reduced fees. The top answer for this group at 54%, which I think may mean we skew a little heavy to the bankers, is lower cost for banking services and reduced fees. And last question, will a fast, low-cost, and secure smartphone wallet solution like M-Money benefit both business and consumers dramatically in the next 3 years? In other words, what will the S-curve look like? The general public, 91.5% yes. Conference attendees, 100% yes. When I think of blockchain technology, well, when my mother-in-law thinks of blockchain technology, when she wants to know what her sweet daughter's husband now does for a living, she doesn't really know. When I ran Overstock.com, she knew I help sell couches and sheets and jewelry. Easy to explain to her friends. Today, she doesn't know. Blockchain technology is complex to those of us that are not technologists. But let me tell you this. I ran an e-commerce company for many, many years, and I cannot tell you the first thing about HTTP protocol. But I know how I use the internet to run a business, and I know how I use it to make my life better. BIT is doing the same. You do not need to know the node and talk the code of blockchain technology. You just need to know that there's an application that lets you participate in the 21st century. Roddy, Gabriel, Oliver, all of my colleagues at BIT, thank you for bringing more of us, for bringing more people into the 21st century. I am a proud owner and supporter of BIT. Thank you.